So what I'm truly excited about, you guys, is that we get exclusive access this morning. They've just opened up and there's nobody inside. This place is going to blow your mind. Stay with me. Hi guys, Sinead here with Free Tours by Foot. I'm on an adventure again. I want to show you exactly where we're going. We are heading to what claims to be one of the oldest pubs in London, dating all the way back to 1520, ladies and gents. There's been a pub on this site since 1520. Well, it was a pub of disrepute, shall we say. Criminals, pirates, cutthroats, murderers. It has been the site of execution of several pirates. Well, that is slightly disputed, but I digress. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But right now, I'm bringing you to one of the biggest and most popular tourist attractions in London. We are heading to what was called the Devil's Tavern, now the Prospect of Whitby. So as mentioned, it's just a brief walk from Wapping Station. And in order to get here, you have to take an overground. So the best way to get here from central London is you can take a Jubilee line from Waterloo Station, or the Jubilee line, eastbound to Canada Water. Then you're going to change for a northbound overground towards the station known as Wapping. Now this area, as you can see, were former warehouses, wharfs as it were, but a massive redevelopment of this area, so a huge surge in these exclusive apartments, usually shared ownership apartments being bought by young professionals in the area, or what was deemed yuppies. Hard to imagine now. It's such a beautiful, vibrant neighborhood with young professionals. But this was also the location of some of the most notorious criminals in seafaring British history. Now, for centuries, the Admiralty were responsible for policing the River Thames. And the Admiralty had absolutely zero tolerance for piracy. And piracy was a capital offence. And if you were caught and convicted of piracy, expect to be executed in the most brutal fashion, almost as bad as to being hung, drawn and quartered. But we're going to head to the notorious haunt of these pirates, smugglers, criminals, murderers, cutthroats. We're heading to a pub that dates back to 1520. Next stop, the Prospect of Whitby. So, just a short minute walk brings us to this stunning, stunning location, folks. And I want to get you out of the sun. It's a beautiful morning here in London, folks. The pub isn't even open yet, but I've had permission to film inside. Exclusive access, thanks to the wonderful manager in there. But the pub dating back to 1520. Claiming to be the oldest riverside inn in London. Now frequented by the most terrifying pirates in British history here. And this is something I love that they do. They do these in all the older pubs in London. And just to give you some sort of perspective of how long this is standing here, it gives you a list of every king and queen that has reigned since the Prospect of Whitby, well, the pub on the site, has remained. So all the way back from Henry VIII, Edward VI, Mary, Elizabeth I, James I, Charles I, then of course the Commonwealth, Charles II, James II, William and Mary, Anne, George I, II, III, IV, William IV, Victoria, Edward VII, George V, Edward VIII, George VI, and of course the current Queen, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. So we're going to head in just a minute. I think they're opening up the door for us, but I wanted to show you also something before we head inside. This is a very secret beach in London. Let me take you down what is called the Pelican Stairs. Again, steeped in history in this area. Rather ominous alleyway, as you can see. But it's where you imagine the larger ships of pirates used to smuggle their goods on board here. Used to get young navvies and pirates from here, taking small dinghy boats out to the sea to retrieve the stolen goods. Now you have to come, it's obviously high tide right now, this secret beach, and I came here yesterday in the afternoon, the tide will go out and you will be able to access that secret beach. So I'm going to be careful, I can't come too far down here. Could you actually imagine if I fell into the River Thames, you guys? But what's really ominous about it is they have a hanging noose right from the balcony you see here. I'll be right with you guys in just a second. A hanging noose here right from the balcony. And bizarrely enough, they have told me somebody just stole the end of the noose. I'm going to be a bit adventurous here. Come a little further down. If I slip, we're in trouble with my phone and everything. There we have it. Now, during the daytime, yesterday I was here at about 4 o'clock. This was stunningly beautiful, and you could actually come down on the shoreline. Right from here is where Hugh Wallace, Sir Hugh Wallace, sailed from here in 1553 in a disastrous attempt to discover the northeast passage to China. He actually should have stayed in the pub because the disastrous journey led to his frozen corpse being discovered by Russian sailors the following spring. Now, it was originally known as the Devil's Tavern, a reference to its ominous past, but I'm going to go back up here because I'm feeling a little bit nervous there. Back up the steps. Now, we're going to take a little tour inside as well. Now, although the Thames is now one of the cleanest rivers in Europe, that wasn't always the case. We all know about the Great Stink of London in 1858, but it's estimated up to between 200 and 400 corpses a year will have washed up on the River Thames. Now, the execution of pirates was a spectacle, not unlike that of the Tavern tree spectacle. The pirates would have been paraded out here, and it was particularly brutal because they would make sure the rope was short enough so they struggled to their last breath. Their necks wouldn't break instantly, and this, of course, their limbs danced, and this was known then as the Marshalsea dance. But for piracy, you were left to dangle here until 3 tides came up above your head. So the bodies, when they were removed, were eventually bloated and black and swollen from the River Thames. And one of the most famous executioners in London was a chap called Judge Jeffreys. He sentenced hundreds of people, or sea criminals as they call them, to death and to be executed in this brutal way. He is said to have frequented this pub as well on a regular basis, as well as so many other famous celebrities and royal family members over the years. So we're going to head inside. So let's head in and I'll show you around one of the most notorious pirate smuggling pubs in London. And we're heading in, so the staff are still kind of setting up for the day, so we may meet a few of them along the way. But immediately you're struck by all the references to its nautical history. as you walk right in the door. Over here, it's a statue of Queen Elizabeth, a beautiful painting of Queen Elizabeth II. So we're going to have a look at all these little placards along the way. Welcome to the Prospect of Whitby, built in 1520 and originally named the Pelican. Wapping residents made their living from the river. Fishermen, sailors, sail makers and boat builders, also smugglers, thieves and pirates. The Devil's Tavern became known as the Devil's Tavern before being renamed the Prospect of Whitby in the 18th century. Just look at the decor here. As we're heading in, we have a lot to see in here today, folks. We do some great special offers as well. A very traditional British pub now, with a lot of happy hours available for all of you. Traditional fish and chips, meat pies. Look at all this, the reference to its amazing nautical history, and immediately you're struck with this kind of presence of this sense of the devilish activity that would have taken place in here. So following a fire in the 19th century, it was rebuilt and named after a collier that used to berth next to the pub, and that was known as the Prospect. So the tile flooring is original to the first pub, but these stunning barn beams, these wooden beams. And as we're looking around here, this is for me, the icing on the cake. Now, this is not usually open to the public, folks, because of high tide. So here we have just what I said there. The flagstone floor of the bar has been trodden by the widest variety of patrons over 500 years. Reputedly, the longest pewter bar in Europe. Beautiful stained pewter bar as well. I mean, the decor in here alone is worth coming to visit, folks. So the pewter top bars were commonplace in the 19th century, but this is one of the few that has survived 20th century modernization, and is thought to be the longest in Great Britain. Okay. Well, reputedly also, according to the manager, in Europe. Now look at this on this stunning day. So here's another little bit of information before we head out here. Directly alongside deck is where a ship called the Prospect moored for many years. Built and registered in Whitby, Yorkshire, she ferried coal to London from Newcastle. The pub took its name when it was rebuilt in the 1770s. So technically there has been a pub on this site, however, since the 1520s. And look at this. Oh my days. I can't believe, literally 2 minutes ago, folks, when I first came here, the River Thames now is floating up to where I was. I could have been swept away, my lovelies. How great would that have been? So here is the noose that reminds us of the dark history of Execution Dock, which would have been somewhere along the River Thames here, between the Ramsgate Tavern and the Prospect of Whitby pub. An Execution Dock is where some very famous pirates were executed over the years, but look how high it gets to. But apparently the River Thames can come all the way up and splashes all the way up to the window here, and you can see that where the algae is formed up here, and I was literally on that third step 2 or 3 minutes ago. So obviously a tidal river, and a very dangerous river with a very dangerous and criminal past. What a spectacular view, folks. Now this balcony is beautiful, but they do close it off at in the winter, because it's always high tide, of course. So let me take you back into the pub and we'll have a little look around and see some other references here to its nautical history. Look how beautiful that is, and you can only imagine how gorgeous it is in the wintertime with the waves crashing against the window and a lovely still fire on. This is going to be my new favorite spot, folks. I do have my sister and her friends arriving this weekend, so I reckon we'll be coming back. Now, another little bit of history here. Beneath this floor is part of the original cellar. With its foundations built into the wet bed, the Prospect was always prone to flooding. And so the cellar was eventually sealed off and as unusable. Now, Richard showed me something rather bizarre up here, which is quite creepy. So you have beautiful views inside the pub, but we're going to go outside into the secret garden now very shortly as well. So the great pub food served daily. They showed me something really intensely creepy here as well a few minutes ago. Look at this that had been found in the pub. A human ulna. Ulna. Part of human bone was discovered in the pub. I mean, it just gets creepier and creepier. So not only did Samuel Pepys, Charles Dickens, Turner the artist all frequent here, so did the famous hanging judge, Judge Jeffreys. There's a reference to him upstairs in a minute. But look at this beautiful secret garden. Oh, the breeze from the Thames is stunning. Underneath this amazing willow tree. I mean, really, where in the world would you find these fabulous little places? Now, despite its dark history, it also has some very pretty history. It is rumored or alleged, and it's over here, that the fuchsia was first discovered in 1696 in San Domenico and introduced to England via this pub. Brought in by a thirsty traveller from the New World, the first plant was traded here for a noggin of rum. How epic. And fuchsia now would be a very popular plant here, but I wanted to show you, look how beautiful this is. And look, here is the Uber boat making its way up to Greenwich from here. And the views from the river. So the stone here identifies this wall, it says, as the boundary between the districts of Wapping and Limehouse. But I'm up here on the ledge. Just give you a beautiful view. Can you imagine what it's like at night time here, folks, when you have a few drinks on you? How epic. Love it, love it, love it. Now me, I'd possibly be tempted to swim in the river. I did ask if anyone had slipped in, but he said he doesn't think anyone has slipped in, but there's a lot of idiots, he said, have attempted to jump in. It's a rather ridiculous idea considering the sewage plant is in the local area as well. So now we're going to head back in again. But what a quaint, beautiful little English pub. And upstairs it gets even more creepy. Looking forward to this. Let me show you this. Pictures in the corner. I mean, everywhere you look, it's steeped in history. I mean, you can wander around here like it's like a little mini museum, if you like. Prospect of Whitby, some of the older pubs that were here. The Devil's Tavern originally, and also known as the Pelican. Okay, let's head upstairs, have a quick look around. Look at these beautiful ships up here. How pretty. The vessels and the anchors now. Right, now there's something rather ominous up here, and I'm trying to figure out what it was. They did show me. Personally, I like to imagine these stairs at the top of the staircase here are actually used, and it's got a stuffed head of a deer in there as well. I like to imagine these stairs were used for the last steps that were used by condemned pirates, but it's quite possibly used just more for loading and unloading goods into the docks and the ships. So there has been numerous sightings of ghosts and apparitions here over the years, as well as tales of poltergeist experiences. Wapping was a hard place in which to live, work, or ever pass through. Many a poor soul would have lost their life here in all manner of unnatural ways, so it's not unusual that they've experienced a lot of paranormal activity in this pub over the years. You're okay, love. I can't interrupt with the poor staff trying to do their job as well. This is allegedly the wig that was worn by Judge Jeffreys, and that was the hammer he used to condemn hundreds of pirates to execution. It's also rumoured that he himself would drink inside here in the Pepys room which is a dedication, of course, to Samuel Pepys, the famous British diarist, and the reason, of course, we know so much about the Great Fire of London to this day, Samuel Pepys's diary. And it's also alleged that in the Smugglers Room, where we're going to go, were several of those pirates and criminals that Judge Jeffreys would the following morning be condemning to execution. Such an incredible history. Look at this beautifully decorated place. And here is Samuel Pepys. 1633 to 1703 left Londoners a great legacy in the form of diaries he kept that tell us much of what we know today about London in the 17th century. He was known to be a regular patron here during his term as a clerk for the Navy and later secretary to the Admiralty. So, of course, the jurisdiction of the Admiralty was the River Thames. So they were the ones that set out the rules for criminals and pirates for centuries until that role was eventually taken over from the River Police. Now, another amazing bit of history here, the room was once used for boxing matches. Perhaps some of the earliest international bouts took place here between seamen from all parts of the world. Also used for cockfighting, it is known to have taken place in this room. Can you imagine? Bare knuckle boxing, which was huge in the UK. That's where we believe Benjamin Conde, the name for Big Ben, came from. He was a prize-winning bare knuckle boxing fighter, boxing champion. So, amazing cockfights and bare knuckle fights. One of the staff was telling me that recently one of their customers came in, they brought in his young child, and he said he wanted to bring him into this room to show him where the first heavyweight boxing, bare knuckle boxing championship match took place in this room. Wow. Now, these are some of the most famous people that have frequented here in more recent times as well. So Rod Steiger, that's a little misprint there, it says Rob, but it's supposed to be Rod Steiger, Richard Burton, Kirk Douglas, Frank Sinatra, Paul Newman, Judy Garland, Muhammad Ali, and Princess Margaret, to name just but a few. Look at the very handsome Paul Newman there. How pretty Princess Margaret is in that. And we'll head straight down then. Kevin Bacon. More recent years, they also say the likes of, the famous comedian. Oh my God, and I love him. I can't remember, his name is gone from me now. He's going to kill me if he ever sees this video. Mickey Flanagan. Sorry, Mickey. Mickey Flanagan was recently in here as well. They've had so many celebrities. No wonder they have. It's just such an awesome place. Now let's have a look inside here. So this was apparently the Smugglers Bar. Well, they use this quite frequently for private parties, ladies and gents. This is a throwback to the pirate past. So away from the ears of the main crowd downstairs, many a smuggler's plot has been thought to be hatched in this room. The infamous pirate, Captain Kidd, was a regular patron in the Wapping hostilleries. Okay. From the Smugglers Room. Get an atmosphere of illicit activity in here, actually. Partially why I'm drawn to it, I think. It's like a den of iniquity, isn't it? Like a seedy bar. I can imagine them drinking quarts of ale and rum and singing. What an incredible place. Yeah, I'm truly blown away by this one. Now, this is a bit more formal, if you like, for formal dining. Look at your views from the river. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep this on your list. You cannot miss out on this incredible experience, and I promise you, it's got the most warm, comforting. Each room has a different vibe to it. It really does. I'm going to say the Smugglers Room is probably my favorite, but I don't think that'll be a surprise to any of you. the stunning views of the River Thames and the outdoor gorgeous history. Ladies and gentlemen, your outdoor decking area as well. Take a nice drink on the River Thames. Let's see if that door is open. Might be locked just yet, but we'll try and get out there. I'm cheeky enough to do that. Okay, here we go. I hope there's no alarm on this or else we're screwed. All right, here we go. Here we go. Actually, I take it back. I think this is my favorite. Look at this on a beautiful summer's day in London. But to be honest, I think it would be as atmospheric and stunning on a winter's stormy day, which could be pretty insane as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prospect of Whitby, the Devil's Tavern, and the Pelican Inn. All rolled into one now. One final look up here of the River Thames and exactly where we are. Another of our stunning historic pubs in London. Thanks for joining me, folks. Right now I'm going to swing off that noose, have a little dip. He told me that recently someone actually stole the noose off the actual, well, rope, which is a bit bizarre. Anyway, that's some dark history there for you. Some dark personality to that. Signing out from London, ladies and gentlemen. Sinead here with Free Tours by Foot. Thanks as ever for joining me this wonderful, wonderful summer's day at the Prospect of Whitby.